Hello. I think we should start. As I remember, we have already form factory. And then it's the time to create action in our pull controller. I think you should have this one in your repository. Yes? So let's see what we have. Simply, this is a Symfony controller, and what we will use is vote action. It's a simple Symfony action. We will fetch content ID from request, and we have, of course, content service. From content service, we will load content by content ID, and then, based on a field identifier, we will fetch the answers from our pool. Then we simply create a pool vote entity, set field ID and content ID, and we will create pool form based on our newly created form factory. So I think it's pretty simple. It's only Symfony stuff. Then we will handle the request, and if form is submitted and valid, we will use entity manager to persist our data. So that's what we must do is creating a routing for our action. So let's create a new file in our resources. Config. I think routing will be fine.
This just shows that you can do external stuff with just the basic of Symfony and not like, because we have also a thing to do this, the call external storage.
Yes.
But it's much
to keep it simple.
Yeah, it's much more difficult right now. So yeah, you can do this only with that. You know how to write entity, how to use doctor and manager, and poof.
So let's add routing for our controller. I will call it Zoom. For example, easy system pool vote. Let's add path. Vote and yes, this is our action. Of course, we must import our routing.yaml. So config. This is our file with routing, and prefix it. Okay. I think it's okay. So next, yes, we have already our controller, and this is the tricky part, because now we must find a way to put our form in field type view. So to do this, we will introduce a parameter provider. This is the way how you can put anything to your template with field type. So this is simply class parameter provider. It must implement parameter provider interface. We will see it has only one method, get view parameters. This is pretty straightforward because we must only create our form, create view for them, and pass as one of parameters. So let's do this. This belongs to our easy publish field type pool namespace. We will create new class. Okay, it's parameter provider. Implements. Parameter. Yes, here we are. So let's check add method stubs. As I said, it has only one method, get view parameters. And because we are late, I will just copy this from our presentation and put it here. As we see, we create pool data. I must import. Yes, it's okay. I set question from field value question property, and then we want to create our pool form, so we need a constructor. And of course, we need form factory.
The same form factory we use in the pool controller.
Yes, this is the second place we will use it. Yes, this is what we want. Okay, I think it's okay. So let's register our parameter provider. As you see, it's very simple. We only need tag our class as easy publish field type parameter provider, and with alias for our field type easy pool. Okay. I think we can copy it. Yes. Everything looks okay. I fix indentation. What's next? Of course, we need a template which will be display our form. So let's create that file. directly in views folder. Yes, and of course I will copy and zoom. By convention, we need to have block easy pull field, which is of course our field type identifier suffixed by field, and we must extend our core content fields template. We could just look here. We have all of our fields. For example, easy strings, text field, and so on. Next, we need our form. Yes, so let's create a variable, set it, for example, form, and our parameter provider give us our form in parameters dot pull form. And we simply have our form in Symfony way. We have start form with our action. Why is missing? Strange. Okay, maybe it's indexing now. But of course, we must provide content ID and field identifier to this root. Method, of course, is post. And simply we will render our form as a widget. Let's render form widget form question. And answer separately. Yes, and we must add simply input type submit with value, let's be simple, save. And of course we must end our form. Yes, I think this is all we need. Besides, we need register our template for field for, of course, site access site. So let's open Easy Fields templates. Oh, and we have it already. As you see, we have site, field templates, and our template with form. And I'm pretty sure that's all what we need to do. Moment of truth. Which domain? I must check how we called our pool. Why? This is strange.
It's not built with the correct dependencies because it's auto-injected. So just split the cache.
Maybe.
Because we are using the auto wiring and it's built on
Yes, of course.
at the first run. So
I hope. Nope. Oh, I think I know what is wrong. Maybe we. Please give me a minute. Okay. So while we force checkout, maybe this will works better. Okay. Yes, it works.
I'm pretty sure
Yes, yes. I missed the slash in the beginning. So, the URL is, what is the question? And we have our pool. And for example, we will send, and yes, we have such success.
As you may see here, we didn't have help from our front-end guys, so
It looks like it is. But we will see in next steps. I'm pretty sure that our votes are safe in database. So that's it. Next step is menu.
So it's built on KNP menu bundle, and this is easy right now. I told you lies before that the previous part would be fast, but this is. We have few menus already configured in the application. I will move to admin. Oh, this is too much for, yeah. So you can hijack the right bar, or the left one, or the top one, or this is how we call the user menu. Depending to each event, you're gonna sign up your event subscriber. So in our case, we want to add a new thing over here where you will click and you will be redirected to results of the pool. So this is also like Symfony-based stuff. You must create an event subscriber. So let's just do this. I just call it event, I believe. Well, event listen. Let's create a new class called MyMenuListener. Yes. And it should implement an event subscriber interface. It could also, I don't know how many of you made translation in the new stack. We have this parser which catches those PHP annotation like this, but somehow there are places when this is not available because how this is built. So there is also provide a translation container interface. So you have those two methods. Get subscribed events is pretty straightforward. It comes directly from that array. It depends to which menu we want to add things. Event, and as you may see, those are all the types you can hijack to add your stuff. We want to my menu, and we got a method on my menu. You can call it whatever you like. We're gonna add this method here. And this is the part when the KNP bundle. This is the part when the KNP comes in. So we want a menu object, and we get this from this event. And now just menu, add, child. Can get it mine pool list, and depending when you're gonna direct it, pass a route. This route will be created later because right now we don't have a controller with that action, so let's call it pool list. And now if you want, we pass those translation things. There's extras for the translation domain. Menu, because that's where we store all those things. And this is where the get translation messages method comes in. It's just returning a JMS translation bundle message. It's an array when we provide a new message. It should be new message. Yep. I believe it's that one. Yeah. ID and message. So we want this to be exactly like this one. This one. Let's make it that way. So we could always create a constant in this class for that, and that's how we do it, to be honest. Menu is a domain, as we decide under it. And we just set the description message. Voting. This came from the thing that the JMS translation bundle at default looks for calling to translator interface, I believe, and for the description. And there is like no good way to pass it here. It shouldn't be nothing here. Yeah. So that's it. Yep. And there will be one problem with that, because we are trying to get to this route, and this route doesn't exist right now. So we go back to our routing file. I will just copy this. Made it pull list. Also for the same thing over here. And I can create a method directly from the YAM file. And at this moment, just return empty response. Yeah, and if all went well, maybe just a cache clear. Yeah, probably. Like, clearing cache is a big part of our job. I didn't register the event listener. Yep. So I will just register the whole directory as the Symfony now allows to. It should be sufficient. Oh, yeah, the file. It's event listener. Oh, yeah. Yep. Yep, and as you see, we just add a new thing to the top menu. Of course, it's now return empty response, so nothing fancy, but at least it doesn't throw us exception, so that's a hooray for us. And yeah, that's how easy it is to add things to menus. And it's the same way for the right bar, user menu, whatsoever. You can check this. We have those classes called name of the menu builder, and this is how we do it. But if you want to add stuff, that's the way. So now to the voting results, because that thing on menu is nothing without it.
Yes, as David said, that the next part is data visualization. We will try to show lists and details result. So we are using Bootstrap. We're really on Bootstrap framework, which makes easy platform easier to extend, and many developers know it. And next thing is the root I think we have it already for list, but we haven't for details. So let's copy this and change a little bit. So pull show, and of course another action. Okay. For now, new response. Oh, misclick. Next, as I said, we need two new methods in a pull controller, list action and show action. So, okay. We must add it. I think we need, of course, request. Okay. And of course, we could have many of pools in our system. So we will try to do this right and introduce pagination. For pagination, we are used Pager Fanta bundle. I think it's pretty simple to use. So if we need a pagination, of course we need page parameter. So let's get it from our request. We'll use getInt. We will look for parameter page called page, and with default value 1. Next, we will our Pager Fanta. Pager Fanta is also used, of course, in admin UI v2. So maybe you saw it already. Oh, new. New Pager Fanta. And of course we need an adapter to get number of results and exactly slice. So we will use build one array adapter. And this is the moment that when we must fetch our voting results. So maybe, did you remember? We missed one step here because we didn't create pull vote repository.
It's like the standard doctrine repository, just
of course.
Custom methods to make this like easier.
Yes, so we enter our entity. We already have repository class. So let's create. Okay. Where you are? Yes, this is our repository. Oh, it's empty. Ah, okay. This is another step. Oh, of course. It is simply a repository class. We inject entity manager from Doctrine ORM. And we added one method, find all ordered by question. This is simple query, select distinct. We fetch field ID, content ID, and question from our table and order it by question. Pretty simple. I must check that we have it in our services. Yes, we have. We have app repository and source set as our folder, so everything should be fine. Okay, so we have one method. And now we must provide template to display our fetched voting results. It's only tweak and HTML, so I will copy it. And put it in admin. And of course, pull. Oh. There. Create new file, list, HTML tweak. And what about content? Of course, for simpleness, I extend our base layout, which we use in all of the places in admin UI. We have, of course, translation domain, set as pool. And in our admin v2, we have several blocks. For example, body class, we can set it as we want. In many views, we have breadcrumbs to easily navigate through our panel. Of course, page title, and the main part, content. It's pretty simple. We have headline, sets as voting results, some headers, and there we will iterate through our paginator, pager get current results, and we will display, we will create show link. We will create it later, or maybe skip this part because it's pretty same like in the list. We will, of course, display field ID and our link to details. And, of course, pagination. It's also pretty simple because we have already in admin UI template, which is used to render all of paginations we have. So let's back to our controller. Now we can use our pool vote repository. And fetch all results. Next, we will set max possible result for page. I think 5 will be okay. And then we will set current page for our pagination. And this will be the mean value from our page. And of course, from get number pages, yes. Okay, I think that's all we need. So next thing is pass our pager Fanta to the view. Pull list. I will set it as a pager because we iterate over pager in our view. Okay, I think that's all. No. Oh. Okay. Of course. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so we are missing pull show root. Why?
This is a route that is used to show results of a single pull. And because the tweak is rendered, compiled, and now it tries to
Of course, I missed.
build the correct link, but it doesn't exist. So
Yeah, it exists now. Should, of course, because I miss it. Should I clear cache again? Oh, of course. I missed something because to show detail of results, we also pass field ID and content ID. Okay. let's see. Cache? No, cache is no problem. Field ID and content ID. Yes, of course. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I think you shouldn't check the because now the first one is
Yes, yes.
this revert this one and make this like this one.
Wow. Yes. The only thing which should we do is display and detail view. But to be honest, we are late, so
The same stuff.
exactly the same.
Just different method call and
Maybe I will copy it, but from another step, next step.
just check out this step and
Okay, no problem. Okay. Let's first check if it works. Yes.
so right now every answer is listed here. Up to you to
Aggregate or count or something. And of course I will show you. This is no magic. In show method we only select one of answers by field ID and content ID. We have new method in our repository, find answers by ID. We only select it from our table by field ID. It's pretty simple. And of course, we also have pagination because we can have as many answers as is possible. And of course, we have view the same way as in the list. So I think it's pretty simple to add list and add pagination to list and display detailed results. It's all about Symfony, and that's it for displaying results. Okay. As I said, the same way we can add detail view for the pool. So the next step is the new one. Maybe not everybody knows about this, but this is part of David.
So part of the 2.2, I believe, or 2.1, me personally moved the notification system to the community version, because why not? Yeah, the thing is we introduced a whole new, together with Adam, to get a new notification service, which simplified methods to do it. Because before that, you should dispatch an event to hook into our existing listener and so on to add notifications to user. But right now, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but there's this interface where you can load notification, get, mark as read when user click it, get pending notification count, get notification count, and obviously create and delete. As I said previously, the create notification was a bit harder, and we still don't, in the admin UI, you can not delete notification because we don't have this business requirements to do this, but we decided that maybe, hey, maybe you have, so we provide an API for that. As I said, it's pretty straightforward, and the use of it is also very easy. But as a part of the community edition, we are not providing like any functionality right now, which is using the notification system. So API is there just for you to do it, and I will show you how. At first, you must inject notification service in the pull controller, and I believe it's already done. If you check out the, if you are still, if you are going to check out at the step 5, that was at the end of the Mikołaj talk. But I believe the notification service is already there. That's all. That's all you have to do to send a notification to a user. I will show you this. OK, so we have a pull controller right now. And we have this vote action. So we want to, wherever someone votes in our system, we want that the owner of the content gets a notification. I know that can be a problem when you have like thousands of votes, because the notification window will be like spammed all over the place. But for our case, it's good. You can always write your custom logic for that. Maybe like if someone votes for a specific option, or like if the number of votes exceeds some level, and so on and so on. We will write a new send notification. That will be a private method. When we gonna inject the pull data, and a target user for the notification. As you can see, we loaded the content before. So content is somewhere here. User is somewhere here, I believe. Owner, yep. So after proper flush, we'll go to this one. And I will just create struct is an API object from the API layer, which is values notification create struct. Which is used by the notification service to create notification. Right now, it consists of owner ID is the owner of notification, so the user wants to have this notification displayed. Type, which is used for selecting the correct rendered for notification, because every notification can be rendered in a different way. Is pending is a bool value wherever this notification was already read or not. And data is an array, which is serialized at the backend. And you can store there whatever you want. In our case, we're going to store the field ID, because we want to have this option that after clicking the notification, you are redirected to the content, to the results of that pull. So we need that. And the question just to show it in the notification title. But this is just the creating struct. Now we need to use notification service, create notification, and pass the notification struct into it. And this is all that it needs to create notification. The other thing is rendering it, but it's also pretty straightforward. all you have to do is create a class that's gonna implement a notification renderer. Those are 2 methods. And of course, a view, but we provide a skeleton view that is, I think it's sufficient. All you can will be like maybe a new notification icon there or something. So let's do this. We're gonna create a renderer in the we're gonna implement notification renderer. So renderer method is used to get the view for the one notification row. So what we need for that, obviously, it's a tweak. And some router to get the correct URL. And that's what we're gonna inject here. Tweak is an environment, I believe. Yep. And this would be a router interface. So thing is, we must be sure before rendering notification that it's consisting the field we're gonna use, because that was a problem for some older things. But yeah, it's important because, for example, okay, so from the start. Notification is a notification API value object, and it consists almost of the same values as the create struct, other than we are adding the created time. So as you see, we have the notification value that is sent back to us. It's on the API layer. And we have the create struct also at the API. But later, is it transformed inside to the SPI. So we want to check if this, yep, because we are using this to render, to get the routing. We want to check if this notification data consists this field. If not, return just empty HTML. But if it does, what we want to do is use tweak to renderer, and now we will pass a name for the view we're gonna create soon. It will be a notification, and let's call it notification row HTML tweak. And we are going to pass an array of parameters there, and it's going to be notification. I'm going to pass the whole thing. So there's a little catch here, because in normal case, you must also think about what you're going to do when the content that notification is pointing to is no longer available for any reason. It could be deleted. A user can lose the access to it. What we do, we are checking if the content is available. If not, we are displaying a special, not here, but in Easy. We are displaying a special notification row that the content is no longer available to you. You can always, that's why we introduced the delete notification also API, because you may have this option that if you trash something, for example, you are also somehow iterating over all notifications and trying to hit those ones which are no longer available. But it's like two-way. It's very similar to event storming, for example. If you want to go that way, do you want to have those things deleted or not? It's like your choice. But keep in mind, if you're going to do this, that you can run into that problem, that the content is no longer available. Yep, and the same for generate URL. I will just copy this because that's the same. The generate URL method is called when user click on it, and it's handled by our default notification controller. Well, I don't want to return empty string here. I want to return null. This router generate, and I want to use the easy system pull list, the thing we did before, and as a field ID, because it's required by this root data ID. So now to the view. I believe, yep. Yep. As you may see, we have those blocks already provided. So I will go here, create, can I do this from here? Yep. I will just copy this and explain what is going on, because those are boring stuff. So, notification row as default looks like this. It's built from, you can add your own classes to the wrapper. You can change the icon, the notification type, or the message, or the date block. What is interesting for us is to change the icon, for example, because we want to have a specific one for notification, and the block message, because title and message is not like appealing to us when it comes to have the results of voting thrown at us. So I think for the icon, we can just copy this, because all we're going to do is change it. The warning is not like the very best one, so we're going to do about. And the message, yeah, I think we can just, it's here. So what this consists of is the title, which in our case is a question for it, and this short message that the vote was casted. That's all we care about in this case. And yeah, what you have to do is just register the renderer, I believe. Yep. And that should be all. Like, as you may see, we are using also the alias for the notification renderer, and this must be consistent with the type you provide when you create a notification with the create struct, because that is how we get the correct notification renderer for each notification. And I think we can go with it. Let's go to the localhost and to our previous notification pool. The notification by default are, I believe, the first every 15 seconds. As we'll see. I will vote for 2B. And I will just refresh the page to be sure, because, yep, as you could see, before that, I have the number 1, because that came from the first pool we created. And those are the rendered things. Maybe it's not so beautiful, but that's, to be honest, because of a bug, because we changed a class name. And I believe it's in 2.2. So yeah. And of course, if you can click those, you are then redirected to the voting results. And as you may see, the number came down, and this is now like in the gray color. And all of that, like the clicking and changing it to that way, if you are like fine with that color, and all it's done by default by us. Yeah, and of course, you can hijack those notifications also, and you can send your own events when, I believe even when someone reads a notification, you can send another notification, and so on and so on. Yeah, on the signal slots, using signal slots. So yeah, that's what we did last time, to introduce those from the community edition to community edition from enterprise edition. And those can be used for many different things. We have some ideas on our own. But yeah, feel free to do this and post it on GitHub. Because like, everything you're gonna do with this, it's like a good thing, you know.
We can also change the render methods. For example, send an email also.
Yeah, yeah. You can do whatever you want in that, yeah. The notification can be sent obviously somewhere else, yeah. Yeah, you can always like do those. For example, if content is published, you can send notification about that. I don't know how many of you are familiar, but the concept is pretty easy. But it was behind the enterprise edition till now, but yeah, we are kind of proud of it that we force it into the community. So that's why I'm talking about this a lot. I believe so. I'm not sure about this, but I must check the notification controller. If not, that will be pretty easy to add. Get notification action, count notification, mark notification as read. That's where the things happen. So you can always hijack this notification controller and override this, but it's indexing right now, so I can tell you. I think our implementation already sent some signal slots. Yes. Yep, we have the slot dispatcher on mark notification as well, so we just write like always. Yep. Yeah, we have for mark notification as read, delete, and for create, because that's all I think we have to do. So yeah, that's all about notification. Yeah, and I believe we are about to get the small break. Yep.
I have a question for notification. Is it bad to use the messenger?
To be honest, I think at least I believe some other people suggested that like 2 weeks ago in our internal thing. So we are thinking about this. Obviously, it can be done with this, but there comes like the thing that we also have to provide an option, easy way to like click the notification, maybe some pop-up when you want to type answer. But yeah, it can be messaging between user can be done with that. And I really like encourage you to do this because it should be like pretty fun way to get to know the notification service. But yeah.
Let's move forward to the next step. Okay, let's talk about custom permissions, roles, policies, and limitation. And so, you already know that role is composition of policies and can be assigned to user or user group. And then policy is composed of combination of module and function. Next, depending on module and function combinations, a policy can also contain limitations. For newcomers like me, no long time ago, it was really confusing. But I think that system provides great flexibility and allows you to really control which user can see or do something in easy platform. So I think it's worth to know how to extend our policy system. And I think it's not complicated when we talk about policy, because a bundle, for example, our app bundle, can expose policies via a policy provider, which is a really simple class, which can be added to easy publish core bundles dependency injection and extension. So we can introduce pool policy provider, which will be used to allow user to see lists or see detailed answer. And as you can see, pool policy provider must implement policy provider interface, which has only one method, add policies. So let's back to code. And I think we can add new folder. Let's call it security. Okay, and add a new class, pool policy provider. As I said, it should implement policy provider interface. Yes, that's one. And then we add method stubs, and as you can see, we have only one method to implement. And I think this is pretty easy because, as I said, we want to have new policy to display a list or show detailed answer. So let's use config builder. And as you see, we have add config method. The argument is array, and we can introduce a new policy. Let's call it pool. Sorry, module, pool, and two functions. As I said, list. And here goes limitations, but in this step, we didn't bother about it. So for now, it's null. We have no limitation at all in this function. And next, function show, also with null, no limitation at all. If we have time, we will talk about how to add custom limitation also. And that's it. That's all that we need to do if we want to add new policy. Okay. This is what we do. Policies configuration hash contains declared modules, functions, and limitation, which is policy. Of course, we must integrate policy provider into Easy Publish core bundle. So we must retrieve Easy Publish container extension and simply add policy provider, which we create in previous step. So let's open a bundle. Public function build. And of course, we need parent build container. But let's fetch easy extension from container. So container, get and get extension. Easy publish. Next, we will add policy provider. Okay. Easy. Yes. This one? No? Not this one. Okay, this one. Okay, and we miss one parameters. Our newly created pool policy provider. Okay. Because we have our policy provider added, the next step is secure our repository. This is very simple. We must inject our permission resolver and use one of methods can user or has access. In this example, I will use has access with pool and list arguments. And if it's not true, so user has no access, we will throw an unauthorized exception. Let's copy this and open our repository. This is our function, find all answer ordered by question. Just paste it. I think from base exception will be thrown. And we must add, of course, our permissionless solver. From the API.
And you always want to have use the API version of classes because that's
Even if
that's where we keep the BC policy from us,
Yes.
as I know. Yeah.
even if you are pro user or pro programmer, please use always API because this is simply safer, more safe to use them. Okay, so let's clear the cache. No, it's only information about unhandled exception. So?
Using create query and select and those, is it okay to use it like that, or you use it because you are you?
You can obviously use Doctrine Query Builder or something like that.
Or build your own API to communicate with your database.
On layer, we just decided that it will be much
Yes.
easier to do this directly
Yes,
from
we decide to skip all layers because we have so much things to show you, and we have run out of time already.
But there are already a lot of boiler code, like the views, all the methods, to hash, from hash, and so on, so on. So we decided, okay, this part can we skip? And yeah, also I think it's also in the Symfony docs, so it's not that wrong. Yeah.
Easy, I've heard that Easy wants to remove some stuff from database in version 3, or clean up the database finally in version 3.
Yeah, there's a big project. I think we have time for that. There's a big project that it's somehow, if you want to like specific, talk to Andrew from Katowice office. But basically, we want to remove the legacy storage thing and introduce that layer purely based on Doctrine. So like everything should be much smoother, much easier to extend. Like writing external storage should no longer be an issue. And yeah, but basically yes, we also moved from statement like this to query builders. That's also the case. Yeah, we are clearing that up.
Okay, so as you can see, we didn't broke anything at all, at least for now. But now we must check that our policy works. So we must check in roles. For example, in editor 1. Oh, what? Okay. I remove some limitation in this group. But now, oh yes, we have new module and new function. And let's allow editors to show pull list. Of course, I need to create new user because, as I remember, we haven't any editors. Yes, create user editor. Of course, publish. So we have user. We will assign our editor. Yes. This way. Okay. As you can see, now he is able to show lists, but the interesting part is what if we revoke access? As you can see, user does not have access to list pool. It's pretty simple. The same thing we can do to allow or disallow user to access list show. But I think maybe let's do this. Let's go ahead. We have time because we skip different parts. But this was the same. The only thing is we could copy this to method which fetch single answer, change list to show. And let's see. Oh, no. Of course, we must grant access to pull list also. Yes. Let's check again. Our user has access to lists. What about showing details? Yes, he can. And let's revoke access. now he can't. So, as I said, it's pretty easy. It's more complicated to add limitation to custom policy, but if we will have time, I try to show you also how to add custom limitation. But for now, it's all about policy. Maybe we will show how to extend our dashboard.
I have a question on the policies. Few years ago, I heard that it was planned to add limitation to field types when you edit content, to limit some people to be able to modify some fields and not some other, for example, metadata.
And limitations and policies for specific field types in content, right?
Yes, as I know, we're thinking about that, but it's definitely not for now. We know that this is a good idea, but I'm not able to swear or deny that it will come.
But yeah, we are aware of this feature, but
Yes, we know that many customers want to limit it in that way.
Looks like the actual content repository, that's almost impossible. They have a revolution should happen in the repository of easy to happen.
Yes, I think only in new version this is possible.
that would probably be a lot of also work done in the policy layer.
Yes.
And we, like we said before, we can't just break things. So
Now we try to fulfill all features from publish
Yeah.
in new version simply.
Yeah.
So I think maybe later. We are aware, but we have other tasks to do now.
So extending dashboard is very similar to what we did in the many thing. I can go out here. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna create a dashboard tab. When we will fetch all the pools that are added to the content types. And do it, we must create a new tab and to add it to the group dashboard everyone, because that's when we want to have it. So let's start with writing that thing and then later register it. I will. You are check out this, or it doesn't matter. I will create a new directory tab. Dashboard everyone. Because don't know if you're familiar, because I don't know it was a case in 1 point or in publish. A dashboard is like split between me and everyone thing. So what we have to do is extend abstract tab. And it's a good way, good idea to also implement the tab interface, because we want to have this in specific position. So what we're gonna need to fetch all those things? Obviously, content type service to check if the things have the correct field type. Search service to get them. And for now, that should be all. I will get the methods and initiate the constructor with that. So I'm gonna type hint those against the API to use the Symfony auto wiring. Where is it? Same with search service. Get order. That's like I think I need our parent call. Yeah, that's our for the parent call. Yeah. Just for the parent, we need a tweak also and translator. I forgot about those two. So let's do this way. So I don't need to. They're declared over there, so it's an element tweak and translator interface. Yeah, now we are good to go. Get order is the order of the tab. For our case, we will just return every time something like 300. Why? I believe all the previous tabs are like 50 between 100 and 200. Why we do this? Because like right now, everyone can inject. There are 100 possibilities to inject between the second and the third one. So that's the case. We also need a identifier of the tab. Get name should be just from the translator, but we're gonna return pools here. And now rendering the view, like the most important. It's very similar, I would say, to what we did in the notification. So those are tab is paginated, so we're gonna use that same new page of Anta with a new ally adapter. He will, in this place, we'll get our content. I will get to that later. Oh, it's kind of like very cumbersome to set max per page. Limit. I will do it that way. Set current page. That would be a page. And what we have to do now is render the correct view with correct data. And I will just the view. Where's the resources? Views. New folder. So what we have here is like very similar to the showing the previous list, table, headers, row, and the button to edit content. Yeah, that's all. The other things that are also here are I will type this from here to explain. Maybe that would be better. To get this, that will be the part when we get the view. And as you may see, we have something called content to pull data mapper. Why? Because we are fetching content, but we want the data about the pool. So there is also this long method. It's using a content type service to load all content groups, then iterate all over it to load all content types from that group. Then you are iterating over all field definitions and looking for that one specific easy pool. As far as I know, we don't have a better API to do this.
Yes, to be honest, we are lack of proper criterion to filter content types based on field identifier. But we have planned to add it soon, as soon as possible.
This is where I would mogę tak to zrobić po prostu. This is a criterion for the content type identifier. And this is query class for, it should be which one? Input parser. Can you show me the use case for it? Na samej górze. Volume content query. As I talked. Yeah, it's here. Yeah. So what we do over here is search for those contents. If it's empty, we're going to return empty array. And if not, we're going to return the value object from that search. So we have the full array of contents that are interesting to us. So over here, we're going to do this. So right now, in the pager, we have all the contents that are interesting to us. Now, there's this content to pull data mapper when we get the important stuff from that content. Of course, this can be done here, that whole thing. Maybe we're going to do this that way. Not creating the separate class. It's like pretty straightforward. It's like mapping one way to another. Let's do it that way. There's no need to. Obviously, in normal environment, you should create this class and inject it here as a service. But I think we created enough classes today. So, I did it the funny way. Yeah. So what is done here is we are iterating over the pager, getting the content. We are checking again for the specific file type identifier, so we don't get, for example, the author from that. And we are populating the data array with the values that we want to be displayed or used in some way in this view. As you may see here, we are iterating over the data. And yeah, I think we are done just to register this pull tab, as we saw previously. And this config services. As before, this is our class. This is tagged with the name where we want to introduce this, and this is a group of the tabs. Check it, that's all. Create tab. Yep. So if everything went right, because this time I didn't check out at the previous step, so that can be a little bit tricky. But yeah, let's just do this because of the auto wiring. Yeah, something is string given on line 115. So I messed something up. And I don't know what, to be honest. Maybe it's wrong. Yeah. It's not that content type identifier. And I think now I removed the wrong one. What have I done here? It's content type identifier from the criterion. If I remove this, it should be from the API, yeah? Yes, everything should be from the API. And I used from the REST layer. A mistake on my part. Yeah. And as you may see, we have this new tab in the everyone section called polls. And because we use all those mappers, we have access to not only like above to the modified language version and user group, but also to the question and to the answers over here. So yeah, that's basically it. Those things, of course, can be used to access it. And that's pretty much how extending the dashboard looks like. So I think we have half an hour. So we should be able to go back to the policy thing and the limitations over there, because they're much more complicated than this, and we really want to show that.
Okay. First, I missed one possibility to add policy, custom policy. Of course, you are able to store your policy configuration not in hash, but you can have your own YAML file for policy. Change is pretty small. The only thing you should do is what I must check. I think it's YAML policy provider to extends. Yes, YAML policy provider. Oh. Misclick again. We can remove that use, and I will remove this method because it is no longer needed. So let's see what we have in YAML policy provider. As we can expect, we have getFiles method, and we must of course implement it. But this is pretty simple. We simply return array with all our files which have our configuration. So, for example, we can have our policy in resources, config, pool policy.yaml. And of course, if we take a look at YAML policy provider, it also implements policy provider interface. Oh, better. As you can see, it implements a policy interface provider and simply read resource and add config as we do previously. So let's create this file. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Our module is pool, and of course, we need list and show functions. Okay. So let's see if it's still working. Yes, user does not have access to show pool, but to be sure, let's add this policy again. As you can see, we still have our policy. everything is working as I expect. Okay. So if you want, you can store your policy configuration in separate file, not only in hash. And let's back to presentation. Okay. What about custom limitation? Of course, you know that custom limitations provide restrictions you can apply to a given access right to limit the right according to certain conditions. For example, in our example, we can limit user access to some pools. So we can choose that this user is able to only show this and this and this content with these pools. Okay. Each limitation, it's a question limitation represents the value, and question limitations types deal with the business logic. So we need two classes, one for the value and one for our business logic. So I think we should create it, or maybe copy. Yes? So we will create new folder for our limitations. And we will create two classes. So, question limitation, yes. And one other. Okay, question limitation class is pretty simple. Of course, it needs to extend limitation from API repository value user limitation. And the only method is get identifier, the identifier of our limitation, custom limitation. So let's copy this. I think this one. Yes, that's it. Question limitation type is more complicated, of course, but of course we must store our limitation, so we need to extend abstract persistent limitation type. class. Sorry about that. So we should extend abstract persistent limitation type and implement SP limitation type interface. Let's generate all methods that we need. And we will go through every method. Accept value is the method which accepts a limitation value and checks for structural validity. Make sure limitation value is proper object and limitation values is of correct type. In our example, limitation values will be the ID of contents that user should see. Okay, because time is running. As I said, we check that limitation value is proper instance of question limitation. If not, we will throw invalid argument type exception, and we check that limitation values are array because we expect that it will be an array of content IDs. And we will loop through limitation values and check if value, I think, int is not needed. We check that each value is a string. If not, we will throw invalid argument type exception. Let's go to next method. Validate method. It simply makes sure that limitation values is valid according to value schema, but in this example, I will also copy this, and I will try to explain. Okay, we will initialize validation errors array. No. Of course. Not found exception we need. And we will loop through limitation values as in previous one. And we will try to load content info based on content ID. If it's not possible, we catch exception, API not found exception, and throw our own validation error with information about key and value. Of course, we must import class. So I think it's also pretty simple. Let's go to the next method. build value. This is the simplest one. It's only create our limitation value. Okay. And of course, we will pass our limitation values when we construct our question limitation object. And I think this is the last method. Evaluate. This is the most important one, because it's evaluate permission against content and target. So simply, as you can see, if our content info ID is not in allowed to show to user, the access will be revoked. Of course, which export? Where is API repository exception? Yes, here it is. No, it's abstract. Okay, we must fix this. Core base exception. So it will be publish core base exception, invalid argument exception. Yes. And of course, if value is not instance of question limitation, we will throw exception. Obviously, we will also check if it is an instance of content. If it is, we will get version info. I think I will copy all of them and yes, that's it. What next? If limitation values are empty, we return false, because obviously user have no access to any limitation to any pools and content types which contain pools. And get criterion, we will no bother about that, because in this example this is not needed, but you can use it to with find query. For example, if you want show a user a list, but filtered one without some pools, you can make a criterion. But for now, we will throw exception about this is not implemented. The same for value schema, because we have no Okay. Let's check what's next. Of course, limitations need to be implemented as limitation types and declared as services. Identified with easy publish limitation tag. So let's open services. Of course, if we want to have our custom limitations, we should add it to our policy. What's wrong about... of course. No dobrze. Okay. Okay. We have only 10 minutes. Okay. Now is the part about integrating custom limitations types with the UI, because we must provide support to edit custom policy in platform UI. When we will choose policy, we want to have a form element with all content types which contain pools. Yes, I think we are run of time. So I try to do this as quick as I can. Okay, so in this example, question limitation form mapper extends existing class, multiple selection based mapper. It is used in, of course, our admin v2, and this class also implements limitation value mapper interface. To fetch content which has a pool, we will need search service, content type service, and content service. This is pretty similar like in case of fetching content types with pools in to dashboard tab. Because we extend multiple selection-based mapper, we only need to implement two methods, get selection choices. As you see, we load content types groups, all of them, and then load content types and check if field identifier is the same as easy pool. Next, we use the same thing as in dashboard tab, the same criterion with content type identifier, and now we have all content types with pools, And we simply create selection choices to allow administrator to choose from them to which content user has access. And we also map limitation values because we need to display administrator not only ID, but I think the name is the best choice. So we go through all limitation values and try to load content based on content ID, and of course get its name. If it's not possible, we log this as an error. Okay, we must register this class in dependency injection container with proper tags. Okay. 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 So we have only 4 minutes. So
We're just gonna show the results,
yes,
what we're trying to achieve, and obviously all the slides are online, all the repository is also online. So if you're interested in that, go ahead, look at it. From what I know, all of this gonna be like transformed into tutorial and post on our docs. So yeah, maybe after what we learned today, where should we like change some things and something that will be much easier to approach. So keep checking our docs or our blog post. I don't know what will be announced if it's gonna be done. So yeah.
Okay. So as you can see, now when we choose pull show policy, we can select one or more pools, which we are created in later. Let's go back to presentation. Of course, as I said, we register the service in dependency injection container with proper tag, and we set limitation type as the same as identifier of our custom limitation. As you see earlier, we extend multiple selection based and we implement selection choices, and we map limitation value, and of course mapper also should be registered. This is I think I should show. Okay, now in policies list we see that we have all names of contents which we select. For example, if I add another one and update, here we see pool and what is the question, and this is the point that we should have a separate template for question limitation value, and as you can see, we simply join the value by comma and display it. Template must be added to configuration under Easy Publish System admin group, limitation value templates. We only select this one, and that's it. So if you are a tough guy or girl, you can create your own custom limitation, custom policy with custom module and limitations. I think it's pretty great because that's allow you to have full of control about what user can or not can. do in our panel.
So it came more after a while, more like a presentation than live coding, but those things happened. Thank you for your attendance. If you have any questions, we are here for the next 2 days.
Yes.
Yeah. So just come to us or write to us on Slack.
Yes.
We will try to answer any questions you have. We can talk about the product, maybe not like of the future, but what is on the roadmap that we can share with you. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you.